Hey there, Erotica fan. Thanks for stopping by. You've made a great selection, and I just know you're gonna love this one. We're loading up your story now, and soon you'll be enjoying some fantastically sexy storytelling. But before this story gets you all hot and bothered, and trust me, it will, you should jot down this code, EROTIC50. No, it's not my phone number. Sorry. It's a special offer code from our friends at adamandeve.com. AdamandEve.com are the #1 suppliers of adult toys and all kinds of sexy goodies. And with the code EROTIC50, you'll get 50% off almost any single item, plus free shipping on your entire order. Just enter the code at the checkout, and you're set. Pretty awesome, huh? And speaking of awesome, your sexy story is now loaded and ready to go. Hold on tight.
Elizabeth had had a long, hard week. And to top it off, she was having a long, lousy night. She'd been on the road with a business trip all week, going to 3 small cities all about 4 hours away from where she lived with her wonderful, sexy, loving boyfriend, Jake. It was their 3-year anniversary, and she was exhausted. All she wanted was to get home, take a long, hot shower, eat a light meal, and snuggle and cuddle all night with Jake. She told him no going to a fancy dinner or out to a show or anything. All she wanted was a little TLC. Now, not only was she exhausted, but she was about an hour away from the exit that would take her into Jake's arms, and her car had died on the side of the road in a little one-horse town that had a stop sign, a motel, a bar, and a garage that was closed until the next day. To make matters even worse, when she called Jake to tell him about how rotten her night was, he'd been a jerk, and now here she was, standing in the only bar, drinking a not very cold or good beer, while fending off the local drunks on her anniversary, instead of being in bed with her usually very understanding boyfriend. Just 45 minutes earlier, Jake had sounded so pleased when he heard her voice on the phone. He'd started asking when she'd get there because he had a surprise for her, and not to worry if it didn't involve having to get dressed up or go anywhere, so she could relax. She hated breaking the news to him that she was stranded and not going to get home until the next day. But she didn't expect the reception she got either. A little disappointment, sure, but the way he acted, he was just darn spoiled and mean, and shoot, she didn't want to start crying here in this stupid bar in front of these stupid drunks. Damn, Elizabeth thought as the tears started to well up in her eyes. A gentle tap on her shoulder had her swirling around, wiping at her eyes. There, in front of her, was this amazingly gorgeous guy. He handed her a handkerchief and smiled a warm, sexy smile at her. "What's a beautiful girl like you doing in a crappy bar like this, and why in the world are you almost crying?" "Does that sort of line work for you often?" she sniffled. "Don't often resort to lines." He smiled again, and she almost melted right there. "No, I don't suppose you do." "Why not tell me all about what's got you so upset?" he asked again. "Well," she took a deep breath. "I was on my way home after a tough week on the road, and I was really tired but really excited about getting home because I have this wonderful boyfriend. At least I thought he was wonderful, and it's our anniversary tonight, but my car broke down, and then when I called to tell him, he was so excited about seeing me. But then when I said I couldn't get home until tomorrow, he seemed really distant and angry, and then Here she paused to take a breath. And then I asked if he wanted to drive the hour up here and keep me company, and here she started to hiccup with little sobs. And instead of saying he would and making me feel better, he just hung up on me. She was so close to losing it completely by this point, she could barely get her words out. Warm, strong arms surrounded her and held her tightly as a hand smoothed her hair, then rubbed her back, calming Elizabeth and making her feel that perhaps her world wasn't coming to a total end. There. It's gonna be all right now, he murmured into her hair. "Let me walk you over to this Fleabag motel where you're staying. You aren't in any condition to be out here fending off these lecherous old coots." Elizabeth simply nodded, barely able to keep her feet. She was so tired and miserable. He walked her across the street, took the key to the room from her hand, opened the door, then carried her into the room. He set her onto the lumpy old bed, then knelt down in front of her. He undid her shoes and slipped them off, then removed her socks and started massaging her feet and calves. She lay back on the bed and ran her arm across her eyes, drying up the tears that were still stubbornly leaking out. "How does that feel?" he asked her. "Are you more relaxed now? Feeling a little better?" Elizabeth wiped away the last of her tears, then sat back up. His hands were up to her knees, and she was starting to feel aroused by his gentle strokes. Just as she was reaching out to touch his face, he reached up and took her hands and stopped her. "Since I'm down here anyway," he looked up at her as he released her hand and slipped his own into his pocket. "I thought I'd tell you that maybe your boyfriend wasn't meaning to come across as a jerk. Maybe he was just too hasty in rushing to leave to get up here so he could take care of that surprise he planned tonight and not wait another damn second missing you. Maybe he was in such a hurry he didn't have the sense to tell you he was on his way and that he would go down into hell and back to get to you. Of course, he didn't expect this place to be as bad as hell, but it'll just have to do." "Oh, Jake, do for what?" Elizabeth asked as she again tried to hug and kiss him, only to have him hold her hands tightly in one of his. "Do for this." With that, Jake pulled out a small black velvet box, opened it up to display a striking diamond engagement ring, and on bended knee in a crappy podunk motel, asked Elizabeth if she would make him the happiest man and marry him. After Elizabeth threw her arms around Jake's broad shoulders, kissed his face, eyes, mouth, and neck, she was well on her way to stripping his shirt right off his back without bothering with the buttons, when he managed to grasp her hands in his again and asked, "Is that a yes?" "Oh, yes! Oh, yes!" Elizabeth cried. Then, and only then, did Jake allow Elizabeth to strip off his shirt as he unbuttoned her blouse, and together they lay down across the mattress and made slow, perfect love all night long.
Wow, how is that? So hot. So fun. You know what's also hot and fun? Ordering something from adamandeve.com. They're so generous with us in bringing these stories to you, but also helping you out with 50% off almost any item on their site and giving you free shipping. Just enter offer code EROTIC50 at checkout on almost any single item, and you'll see the price go down by half. And shipping is for free. Amazing! EROTIC50 is the code. So don't stop listening to these stories. We love you. I'll be waiting.